Welcome to the January 22nd Select Board meeting. I'm going to ask for a roll call. Mr. Kyra is going to be on Zoom this evening, so all our voting will be done by roll call. Roll call, please.
Frank West here.
Lily Maselli here.
Greg Bendel here.
And Gary DePalma here. We're going to ask everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gonna ask for a motion on transmitting of the Treasury warrants. They will be warrant number 2428, 2428W, 2428T, 2429, 2429W, 2429T, and 2429S.
So moved.
Second.
I'm going to ask for a motion since we have roll call, please.
Frank West, yes.
Lily Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
And Gary DePalma, yes. Third will be the approval of minutes from January 8th, 2024. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
All those in discussion?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed on page 3 is the way I was portrayed in paragraph 2 as challenging the celebration without a carnival. I actually praised in the July 4th committee for the tremendous job that they've been doing throughout the years. I, for one, who have been a participant with the Wilmington Sons and Daughters of Italy for 40 years now there, know the importance of a carnival. And in no way do I think that we should stop having a carnival. My point is that if a carnival couldn't fit in that location for 1 year, maybe 2 years, it should not prevent us from having a celebration. So the way, it was interpreted by the secretary is a little disappointing, but I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you.
Yeah, motion.
So do I have a motion to
We
accept?
do, and we had a second. We could do roll call.
Could I have a roll call, please?
Frank West, yes.
Lily Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Given Kyrie, yes.
And Gary DePalma, yes. So moved. The next is going to open a public hearing on the request to amend flammable license for a property located at 700 Main Street. Sarah Smith. Please.
You can sit.
Please, right.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good evening.
Also, have Jeremy Howell, our facility manager, with us as well, so.
Welcome.
Now, if you would, explain to us what you are presenting tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the public hearing.
Oh,
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Frank West, yes.
Lily Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Given Kyrie, yes.
Gary DePalma, yes. The meeting is now open.
All right, we are here to amend our flammable license. We recently have installed a new fire pump system that requires a 187-gallon diesel tank to operate it. So that is the reason why we're here to amend our license to up our flammable diesel quantity. I do have all the required items that, the check, the certified receipts. We did receive 3 out of the 5 that we did send. Do you need anything from me?
Yes, we can turn them to the recording secretary, please.
We have recommendations. Mr. Chair, do we have recommendations?
Pardon me?
Do we have recommendations? on
That's
this?
what I'm looking for now.
We do.
I have a recommendation from the,
The fire chief signed the application. Al Spalding, building inspector, has no issue, and the town clerk, select board, Elizabeth Lawrenson, also has no objections.
any questions?
Basically, Mr. Chairman, they're just requesting to up the capacity 187 gallons.
I make a
Right.
motion to grant the request.
Do I have a second?
Just want to make sure
Discussion.
we're going to hear from the public.
Oh, sorry, right.
That's right.
If there's any public.
Is there anyone here from the public that wants to speak
Nope.
regarding this? Nope,
Just check.
nope, that's okay.
So I'll make a motion to grant the request.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Frank West, yes?
Lily Maselli, yes.
Greg Mendel, yes.
Kevin Carr, yes?
And Gary DePalma, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
And now I will be closing the meeting.
I move to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Frank West, yes?
Lily Maselli, yes.
Greg Mendel, yes.
Kevin Carr, yes?
And Gary DePalma, yes. Next on our agenda is the process to permit the carnival. And our assistant town manager will be speaking on this, Susan Inmans.
Good evening. I just wanted to say that the last time we met, we had talked about going back and doing a little more research, talking to our legal counsel, and just viewing what we had been doing for the other components, not just the carnivals, fairs, bazaars, and antique shows, just so we knew that we could work to get a process together for the carnival only. And I think we've come to a really satisfactory point. In section 419, that was titled Fairs, Bazaars, Antique Shows, and Carnivals, it very clearly states in that first sentence, which has not been changed by town meeting, that in all districts, any building or premises or operated by a municipality or religious organization or private lodge or club may be used with the owner's permission for fairs, bazaars, antique shows, and similar events. That has not changed. It's just owner's permission. And I think there was a little confusion last time when Select Board Member Kyra had asked, is this, private property too? And I think it is really both, because when it's private property and it's not a carnival, you only need the owner's permission. So when it comes to carnivals, that's where things change a little. And in the last town meeting, that process was changed so that the select board gave the approval, gave the authorization, rather than the ZBA through a special permit. So we looked back, we looked at what we had done with fairs, bazaars, all those other events, and the process for town property has consistently been to have these types of events approved by the select board as they represent the owner, which is the town, of those properties. The only change to 419 is in the approval of open-air carnivals where they are no longer authorized by special permit under the ZBA and are now authorized by the select board. The special permit process and the application of the 4th of July committee, for example, from last year, were reviewed, and that resulted in the application draft that you all received in your packets, which has been examined by 2 chiefs, the health director, and has been sent to legal counsel. Legal counsel has said, as long as that application meets with what you want to know about your carnivals, by form, it's fine with him, and it meets the any requirement we'd have for, you know, being legally acceptable. So I think we're covered. I think what's gonna happen is when we looked back at those titles, fairs, bazaars, and antique shows, they were all coming here anyway. I confirmed with the ZBA and the building department that nothing's happening down there except the food permits and the things that should be happening in that office. And we are really representing the owner. If it's if it's on public property here, we're already giving that permission here. So nothing will change there. Simply the carnival application that needs to be accepted so that we can start out by having the 4th of July committee apply. We may find some bugs in this when we go through it for the first time. I also worked a lot with Beverly, and I'm very appreciative of her because she has other processes for things that happen in our office. And she gave some great recommendations to me for that opening paragraph so that we emulated sort of a hybrid of what that special permit process requires, along with what some of our processes are in the select. So we tried to get a blend that we weren't advertising twice like a special permit does, but instead only advertising once, giving enough lead time so that we could, you know, get these things done in a proper time frame, that residents would be notified with enough time to plan to come to the hearing here.
Great.
So is there any questions
you.
that I can answer?
Any questions?
Yes,
Go ahead.
please. Thank you, Susan. This is good, because I was going to bring up that whole point on the bylaw. So essentially, I keep using the Festival of Trees as an example, but nothing changes. They
Nothing
can-
changes.
Nothing changes. Okay.
Come in front of the board like they always
Yep,
do.
perfect.
Nothing
So,
We'll have a
changes.
car wash at the.
yeah,
4th of
that all
July
stays.
building.
Okay, and that was, I think, my biggest concern is we
Nothing
didn't want to
changes.
make things more difficult for people to do. So nothing changes. It's just a matter of just changing hands. This is the application. And obviously, when that application comes in, we're going to review it and we'll put our stipulations in at that time or as
And they
needed.
may not come with a said application because they're not a carnival.
Right.
The
No,
application is
absolutely.
going to be
Right,
really just the
right.
carnival. They'll come in with their regular
No,
request.
that's what I'm saying, for the
Yep.
carnival. For
Yep.
example, when they come in and do, you know, the application, we can have those discussions around
Absolutely.
setup,
and we-
breakdown, all that stuff.
We left you the ability on that last page for anything
Yep.
we didn't think of in this that you could say.
Yep.
And where you could address the fee situation or waive a fee.
Okay.
And so I think those were the other two things that sort of went, you know, that we wanted to look at from the special permit process. But it kind of leaves us to be a little flexible in the beginning, and if we find a path we want to marry, we will.
Thank
All
you.
right.
I'm good.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank you very much for your work on this. Appreciate it. And I think that's a great question. Ms. Maselli, I agree. I think it's important to clarify that if you're, you know, an athletic team looking to have a car wash, everything's going to remain the same, you know, the normal process.
Yeah.
And so just the only question I just want to confirm for people watching at home. So this is basically the same as the ZBA application with a few minor tweaks, obviously changing of the board name and,
There's a little more advertisement and steps to go through in a public process with a special permit, that this would be a little less than that. There's a
But
little
they will have
less.
to notify the abutters.
They still will have to notify the abutters. They still may have to pay a fee, unless it's waived for some reason. And the process is emulated to mirror, I guess, the special permit process, but not have two advertisements and not have, the abutter notifications are gonna be the same, 300 feet from the place of the event. And so I think everything else is pretty much the same.
Thank you. And so obviously, I just, as a courtesy, I would imagine they're watching, but as a courtesy, I would imagine members of the committee who are not here, there are some here, they will be notified that this has been completed and then they can apply when they're ready?
Yeah, I've actually kept Pat Giroux in the works because I really, there was one carnival to emulate this for. So I took his application from last year and I created this application using every single thing he answered for the ZBA. And so he's very knowledgeable about where I'm at in this process. And I even went back to him when I got this done and said, I'm really singling the carnivals. We added one thing to this that I don't think had been in the prior things, and that was about the storage of flammable, combustible things that the fire chief had told me to add 7 days out. They wanted to get that permit in 7 days out so they could sign off on that application.
Great. So if it's okay, I don't want to speak for any of my colleagues, but if it's, the chair's okay, if this were to pass tonight, and I believe it will, we'd give a courtesy heads up to the committee?
They absolutely are waiting for me to hand them the draft.
I figured they were.
I
They're
know
on
my
top of it.
timeline, and Pat knows his timeline
Hey.
well, as you know.
The only question I, oh, go
So
ahead.
I was just going to conclude by saying it's tough not to be thinking about July already when it's as cold as it is.
I know, I'm with you.
The only question I have is on the last, page 4, there's a sign-off for the fire chief and police chief.
Yep.
I feel that we should have a sign-off for the Board of Health also there.
Well, I question that, but I also kind of looked at the food permit process, and everybody has told me that that ZBA permitting process did not mix up the food permitting process with it, so I stayed along those lines and stayed out of the food permitting process. I passed that by the Board of Health. If she wanted to add it, she certainly could have, and she did not. So I'm comfortable with the fact that there's a different section of our laws that is, you know, on the food issue, and I think vendors know very clearly they need a food permit here for this.
Okay.
Well, I have a motion to, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Kara.
Susan, thank you for putting this together. I noticed that first paragraph on the first page was inserted, and that looks good. But I do have a question on it. Isn't it, shouldn't it be that the town would be sending in the advertisement to the town crier, as it's done in the past? And then in the third sentence up, it's maybe the last sentence where it says, within 3 days of the advertisement, the applicant must send a butter. Shouldn't that be the town that would send that letter to the abutters?
With the special,
That's the purpose of, I think that's the purpose of the fee requirement. It's like $150 for the town crier advertisement, it's $100 for the mailing of the letters. And I always thought the town took care of that, to make sure it was done.
well, I believe you're, oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I said, should that be adjusted somehow?
So we did talk about that, Select Board Member Kyra. We just ended up saying to ourselves that the special permit process is very regulatory, and that is the process for them to have that, the abutters notices sent out by the staff in our place. But here, when Beverly does it on other issues through the selectmen, the people actually send out the abutter notices. So we opted to stay with a process that you use for, what was it that you used that process for? Yeah, all of them. So when Bev sends out abutter notices right now, it's sent out by the actual applicant. So we kind of stayed with that process. I don't have a problem with you saying you want us to do it. I was just sort of trying to make it as easy as possible to, you know, one office is required to really do everything for them, and our office is kind of a little bit different when it comes to the licensing and things that, you know, Bev is dealing with. So I opted to ask her, because it's going to be her process to run, and stay with, you know, guidelines that we were already using. But if you have an opinion on that, please, by all means, we're here to listen.
No, that's fine, I just wanna make sure that it's done. And I guess we'll just ask for that information at the time that they come with the application. Did they do it, and do we have the green slips to show that it had been done, correct?
Well, this is an interesting point because it's no longer required, and even when it was in the ZBA, it was not required to do certified mail. When I've done this in the past, it was always certified mail, and you would have the green tickets to prove that you did this. Yeah. And they do first-class mail right now. And that's sort of why I stretched out the process a little longer than what Bev initially wanted, was just like a week before the selectmen's meeting, because I felt like the mail has slowed lately, and I didn't want to see people say, geez, I only got 2 days heads up before this meeting. So we were kind of thinking of going, you know, the little longer, 2 weeks ahead. And it is first-class mail. These are all things, again, I'm very open to changing on this application. Right now, the special permit is not certified mail as far as what they've told me. It is first-class mail, abutters notifications. So if you want actual proof, then certified mail is the way to go, but it's expensive. and you're putting an expense on that, you know, potential charity or whatever that could be running this. And if you're doing first-class mail and you feel better about it being sent internally by our people, that's another way to address the surety of that getting mailed and approved. And this is really, I think this just is really a decision for this board. We can give you all those options, but it's really you who has to choose.
Yeah, I would like to see it be as it's been done before, certified mail, because we'd be charging a fee for that, so, for me, I would like that to change, but that's.
You'd like it changed to certified mail, so that mailing would be covered by them, and they would pay the certified mailings.
In the application, correct, as they've done in the past, as well as the advertisement to the town crier.
Yep, they would pay.
It's the same as what has been always done in the past,
No.
is my understanding.
Mr. Chairman, I was just curious,
And
do,
then,
sorry,
I guess on page 3 of page 4, on the last bullet point, I think I'd like to see where it says that the carnival vendor will only be permitted to construct and deconstruct the carnival during hours indicated on the date of the event section listed above. I'd like for maybe to add in subject to the approval of the select board.
isn't the application subject to the whole application is, right?
Just the question, so I can clarify, if you were not to approve this, then they would not have to do that, but if you were to approve it as to form, you know, as to the way it's written to you, I think it would cover that. I think you'd be saying that the date of the event and the breakdown and put up dates and times were approved by you. If you'd like me to add that language, I think it's gonna be, you know, saying that again, which is fine, but I do think once you approve that application, it does have that said on the first page and second page.
Well, yeah, I guess it would permit us to change those hours. In other words,
Oh,
uh,
yep,
to keep it consistent, so in other words, they say the carnival wants to last until midnight or 1 in the morning. We can now, because it's subject to the approval of the board, we can say, no, that's really,
yeah,
maybe we want it only to go to 10:30,
yes.
you know, so
Well,
that's why I wanted that subject to approval of the select board.
and I agree with you 100%. However, I would say this entire application is subject to the approval of the board, and you might not
I
like.
agree.
You might not like a lot of things that you could change. And in no way does this application take away the board's right to discuss every issue and say, I don't like that, you know? I think it's just a way for you to get the information. But we can do, you know, you might even be better off at the end just saying the components of this application are subject to discussion and, you know, changes by the board or you know, recommendations by the board.
Well, right on the first page, we have, you know, hours of event. If we don't like the hours, we can always discuss it.
Yeah.
And time and date of equipment drop-off and setup. Not only do we hear what the carnival wants to say, we can also indicate what times we want to have the hours of their breakdown and setups. So
This is their application to tell us what hours they want.
Right.
This isn't for us to tell them what hours, unless we say to them, you know, we don't approve those hours that you submitted to us in this application, we'd rather it be this.
Right.
Right,
I think
that's
that's-
what we can
why
do
I'm
very
saying
easily.
And that's
it's
what we
subject to
yeah.
approval of the select. But if we're to take that approach, then okay.
I can look for the right place to put that, but I can put something that says, you know, subject to the approval of,
Right under the last line on the first page.
yeah,
Time and date of equipment drop-off and setup, subject to approval.
There you go.
yeah.
That
We can
works.
do it on both that and the breakdown. We can
Yeah.
put subject to, but
Yeah.
again, all, like
It's
I
all
said,
approvable.
all of
I-
it's
I
subject
think
to
it's
approval.
It's
it's
gonna be
redundant.
subject to
It's
approval.
redundant.
Yeah, I think it is, but
You're right.
I think you have a good point though, Kevin,
Yeah,
and it's one well-made, that this is really just an application, and this board will, you know, get into the finer points
Yeah, I don't
when
think
you
it's
come
needed.
before them.
Great.
Okay, and, yeah, and like you said, if you find it necessary to add it at the very end of the vote, maybe that's the spot, like you mentioned earlier.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, application subject to approval of the board. And then, under the, layout guidelines, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's the fifth bullet point down, where you have it, in, large letters where it says the carnival vendor may be required. I think the carnival vendor, as in past practice, will be required to have a balance of family rides and major rides. My understanding in the past, they've always had like 15 kids rides and 15 adult rides. They didn't have like, you know, 10 adult rides and only 5 kid rides. They kept it even, you know, for the entire community. So putting the word may in there means that they have that chance to change that and have less kiddie rides and more major rides. So that, I think it should be balanced out in the way it's been in past practice. So maybe change the may to will. The carnival vendor will be required to maintain an equal balance of family rides and major rides. Again, just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I think, I understand completely what Select Member Kyra was talking about, but I think, you know, the Fourth of July committee, in negotiating with the carnival vendor, might have an issue. I mean, what if they can only get 8 kiddie rides and 10 adult rides? Well, we're not balanced. You know what I mean? I don't think there'll be a situation personally, and maybe somebody can help me out on this, but I don't think you'll have a situation where you'll have like 15 major rides and 3 kiddie rides. You know, the carnivals tend to run balanced.
You will if you use the word may, Mr. West, and they've never had that issue before.
But have we required them to do this in the past? A
Yes.
balance?
My understanding in talking is that it's been a balanced agreement, that there'd be as many kids rides as there are adult rides.
Should it, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I don't know exactly what the wording was in prior, but, I mean, should it just be, and not verbatim here, but, you know, an effort should be made to try to have them equal? I mean, I think Mr. West does raise a good point. I mean, if a ride goes down because it broke, they're not gonna bring it, they might be off by 1 or 2. I don't want to get hung up on such, like, if
Right,
there
and
was one ride that went down, or 2, if it was off by 1, 2, or 3. I think it's a good
Right.
point. We want to have a balance, but
Yep.
in reality, you know, if a ride's broken or it's whatever
Yep.
somewhere else, then that just might not be a possibility. So
Yep. At the same time, I do hear Selectman Kyra, what he's saying, and I think, again, I would just say to you, you still have that opportunity every time you meet with the carnival people
Right.
to say, do you have a breakdown that's equal? We want a breakdown that's equal. Show us where that is. And you still have that opportunity to discuss that and drill down on that when they are in front of you. I can take the may out, or I can change it as Selectman Bendel says, an effort should be made to. Would you be satisfied with that, Selectman Kyra?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay,
You can
I'll work
also-
on that
You
language.
can also use just the carnival vendor will attempt to maintain an equal balance.
yeah, whatever the wording,
Yeah.
I'm not claiming to have the
Yep.
exact verbiage at this moment, but I mean, I think
Yep.
the point is that we're hoping that there'll be an effort to
Yeah,
have a
I think an
balance,
effort.
right? And then
I
we
think-
realize that things happen, and
And I do think this is just an application.
Yeah,
We
this-
can, you know, for lack of a better term, we could sit there and say no, yes, no, you know what I mean? We have that authority to say, okay, you know, you can't come at this time or whatever, or we'd really like for you, what can you do to have a balance? So I mean,
Yeah.
just because it's on the application, regardless of who applies, you know, we have the authority during the meeting to
Right,
have that negotiation
absolutely.
with them, if you will, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
And you have a fabulous event that runs like
Oh, yeah.
clockwork with this. This application, the only reason I get more technical, and I'm sure you do too, is the idea if there was ever another one.
Right,
And
right.
we had to go through that with a new,
It's the
new
standard.
vendor, that you just want to have that protective language. But I'm confident in the group that does this now, that this is not going to be an issue. So we can make those minor changes. I can release this application with your permission to them tomorrow.
Mr. Chair.
And just one thing, Susan, my English, I guess, in this, is that public safety part down the bottom there, it says, please provide the number, and I think it should be locations with an S. I don't want to.
Okay, number and
I
locations.
think an S should be added in there, but that's just, you know.
Yeah, and to, just in case you look at this later and think I forgot you, you had a question about background checks. I checked with the chief. I can talk to you about this offline later, but the correct wording is background check.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if we could just circle back
Yeah.
to the postage. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this because forgive me, I don't know how it was. Maybe I could just lean on Beverly, and I hate to put you on the spot, Beverly, but you're here. In the past, have they paid for certified mail, the applicants?
Like liquor and like the flammables?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, so that's the way it's been done in the past.
ZBA,
But this is,
But other ones, no. And I'll just tell you, for one certified mail, one piece of paper is $8.50.
Ooh.
You multiply that by like 50, 60 homes.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
we
this-
can't do that.
thank you. So that's why I just want to circle back on this, because if we're talking about all the homes within 300 feet,
That's it. And you know, to Selectman Kyra's point, if this board is more comfortable with those going out from here, knowing that we've done them, we can make it a point to do that. It's really up to you. Again, we were trying to sort of take a common road for the selectman's office the way we normally do things, but we have personnel, there's not enough carnivals that it's gonna knock us out to do these notifications, so.
I prefer the town just to send a letter out.
Yeah, if we're not going to add it to be certified mail, then I would want the town to send it out first class and not the applicant or the town,
then you can put a
to
fee
to the abutters.
Okay.
and
Do you want
And
to
to
leave
the town crier. Now,
Uh, No, we do
if
it
there's
by,
a fee, there could be a fee to that, because
Right.
we pay first-class mail, and we'll pay for the ad to the town crier, so that fee, or that price, whatever that is, would be part of the cost to the
We can add,
vendor.
we can add one more little checkbox in the blue box in the back that says cost of mailing, and we can check that and write the cost of mailing that we incur. And then, and this, the way this first paragraph is written, the town does do the advertising in the town crier. Beverly will send that in when one of these applications comes in. And she will give the applicant the packet of the notification and she would have given him the street addresses, but now in this case, we'll get the street addresses and we'll send out the notification, the butter notification to them.
yeah, in my mind, I think that that's reasonable, because I think
Yeah.
that the application fee is meant to cover that cost, and that covers it here from Town Hall. When we print and mail that, the postage, that, whatever that number is, I think in the past it's been about $100, that should cover it, as opposed to asking a community group to pay $8 per piece of paper.
Right.
I just want to be fair and be consistent with what we've done.
Okay, so Board of Select,
The other thing, Susan, I'm sorry, is that then the word where it says the applicant must send a butter notification be the town, must send.
that's right. I'll change the wording to this.
Okay.
I'll send you all a updated one. So just for the final analysis here, the Selectman's office, Beverly will receive this application. She will find a date. She will then take the accepted, the filled-in application, and we will put that on the calendar, advertise 2 weeks in advance of the meeting that we're intending to review this application. And then we will send a butter notices within 3 days of that advertisement going into the paper. to abutters within 300 feet, and we will send out those charges back to the applicant, along with the charges for the advertisement back to the applicant. They will have to pay that.
Any other questions?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I could just kind of summarize this, I think it's important that we just kind of frame this for somebody who might just be tuning in. I appreciate your efforts tonight, and I appreciate this discussion, but this all derives from April 29th, where an article at town meeting was overwhelmingly passed, and which, by the way, all 5 members of this board supported, to have this article change, and that's why we're here doing this. So this isn't like we just decided, you
Nope.
know what we should do? We
Yep.
should come up with a new application. We've been charged by town meeting to do this, and that's why we're doing our due diligence, and we hope that we get it right here this year, and if not, it maybe needs to be tweaked in the future, we tweak it. This is the
Right.
first time that this board has been charged with doing this. I feel like we've done a good job of going through it and making sure we have all our Ts crossed, and I appreciate the, everybody in the office who worked on it, but I think it's important to note that.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Very much so, and we did not have a process for this. So this is about selecting the process that's appropriate for this.
Right.
And now that it is not special permit related, that changed it, which
Yep.
required a process. So, thank you.
you.
And thank you, Bev, for the help. I appreciate it. So I guess with approval of this board, with these changes, I could send you all a draft and then get that out to the group that's waiting for it.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve item number 6, if you're willing.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, 2 things, if I may. One, it's a public hearing.
No.
No,
This is not a public hearing.
Nope.
Okay, okay, never mind. My apologies.
Do you, can, you can
Um,
ask if she wants
Okay.
to speak.
If you're willing to accept it, I'll make a motion that we approve the process for authorizing fairs, bazaars, antique shows, and carnivals.
Second.
Oh, no, you can- either.
All those in favor by roll call, please?
Frank West, yes.
Lilia Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Kyrie, yes?
And Gary DePalma, yes.
And just one final thing, I'd just like to say, please remember, in the special permit process, it is a hearing. This will really be, we're just gonna call it an application review meeting that we're putting out the date for, because it really isn't a hearing per se, it's not needed with the approval of the Board of Selectmen.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thanks,
you all.
Susan.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to a discussion on establishing a building repurposing committee. I have spoken to a number of department heads, and building department would be interested in being on it. DPW, Historical Commission, Disabilities, and of course, a representative from the Select Board, and then we would each pick a resident to be on the committee. Do I have any comments?
Yeah, I'm trying to think how I want to phrase it. So, before a committee, establish a committee, shouldn't we have some parameters around what the committee's actually gonna do? Because I think we need to kind of give them a charge, if you will, before we start nominating people from departments and that, you know what I mean? Because right now, I don't know what this committee's gonna be doing, and I'm uncomfortable appointing anybody to it.
The committee will be,
I think it's a great idea, by the way, but I'm not comfortable, you know, I think it has to be established before we nominate people to it or ask people to join it.
I wasn't asking for nominations tonight.
Yeah.
I was just giving you the background on what departments in the town would be involved in it.
Okay.
The last time we spoke about it, it was questioned which ones. I went and spoke to the departments, and the ones that were interested in it was, of course, Buildings, DPW, Historical, Disability, and a representative from the Select Board. They would be charged with reviewing buildings that the town will not be using or are planning on emptying, closing out, and to review the conditions of the buildings and making a recommendation to the Select Board on what they feel should be done with the buildings. We are gonna be anticipating some older buildings being emptied. It costs us more to insure these buildings empty than it does if they were being used. And if we're not gonna use them, why are we going to hold on to them?
Well, Mr. Chairman, on part of the establishing the building reuse committee, should we establish what specific buildings we're talking about?
No, because we don't have the buildings yet. You know, like, we know eventually this building is going to
Yep.
be empty. We don't know what's going on with the school buildings, even though they'd have to turn the building back over to the town before we could take an action on it. What other buildings do we have that we're not gonna be using in the near future? We don't know where they all are, but we should start addressing it when the new Town Hall School Administration Building is built. What are we gonna do with the Roman House? These are questions that we have to address. We can't afford to let them sit idle. There could be a security issue with it. And as I said, our insurance, the way it was presented to me, almost doubles when the buildings are empty.
I think that's all a good idea. I'm a little concerned just because if we don't have a list of buildings, I mean, even though they're not emptied now, if we're gonna establish this committee, I think there's still, they should start discussing those things. We know the Roman House is gonna be empty at some point. We know this is gonna be, I mean, I think if we're gonna establish this now, there's no reason that this committee can't start having those conversations now. Do you know what I mean? So I do think there should be a list of
Right.
buildings to Mr. West's point that they would start having discussions about, My other thing is why, instead of this board choosing people, why can't we put it out to the town and see if there's anybody who wants to volunteer for it? And we can maybe ask them to send in a letter, telling us why they would like to be a part of it, and we choose.
I have no qualms with that at all.
I just personally would like to give the opportunity to the residents to, because, I just think for something like this, I think, I don't know, I just think there are residents out there, like, I could pick someone, or I could ask people to reach out to me, but I mean, I have no one in mind that I would even consider. I would go out to the residents personally and just be like, let me know if you're interested, because I just don't know. So just something to consider. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I think this is something that maybe we could put out to the residents, ask them to just submit a short paragraph on if they're interested, why they're interested, what they could bring to the table, whatever. Something easy. Just a thought.
This is one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that the public was included in it.
Yeah.
Moving on from there. I have no qualms at all with residents sending in a request. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple points if I can. Number one, I haven't asked anybody to be on this committee. I just want to make that
No,
clear.
Me either.
I wonder if we should consider how we name this committee. I wonder if the Building Reuse Committee suggests that each building is going to be reused for something. I wonder if we should consider Building Reuse and/or Demolition Committee.
Right.
Let's be honest, I think it's a
Right, whoever needs to
strong
go.
possibility that some of these buildings are demolished.
Yeah.
And that, in fact, they're not reused or repurposed. So I think that we ought to maybe, and again, I don't know, we can get creative on how we want to word this, but if we use reuse committee, it suggests that it's going to be reused again. I don't see.
I wanted it repurposing committee to determine whether we can use it again or recommend it to be taken down.
I'm reading this as Building Reuse Committee.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's the
I'll stick with my
future.
point. My point is
Yeah.
that if we ought not eliminate the possibility of demolition. And I think that quite possibly will be the fate of some of these buildings. But I think Ms. Maselli brings a good point. Like, I have a hard time thinking of somebody, then calling them up and say, do you want to be on a committee? We haven't decided the name. We don't know the buildings, but are you willing to take a look at them when we decide? That is a good question that you've asked, Ms.
Yeah.
Maselli. And the final thought I wanted to ask was, I think that obviously this, I'd like to see our new town manager weigh in on this at some point too. They're gonna be coming in and taking the helm, and that they maybe have some ideas and should be involved. So, I just wanted to offer that.
And are you suggesting that we push it off till the new town manager comes in?
Well, I think we have the luxury of time. None of these buildings are
No.
going to be repurposed or demolished anytime soon, although I'll leave my opinion on that out tonight. But I think it'll be a pretty quick decision for whoever is on this committee to make a recommendation. The fate of some of these is going to be demolition. Again, that's just my opinion, so, but I think the good point was made by Ms. Maselli. Let's be clear about what we're asking someone to do. These are volunteers, and I would imagine there will be some who are eager, but let's be clear about what we're asking them to do, so we're not wasting their time.
Well,
Mr.
that-
Chair,
Yes.
yeah, just to point out that the makeup that you're suggesting, the building department, DPW, historical, disability, and select person, and then 5 others, that gives you a committee of 10. Typically, the committees are odd numbers, but that's just, they can be even, I suppose, but just wanted to point that out. And I do agree with Ms. Maselli about the process as well. You know, we're gonna charge these people to do something without a process. So we've had vacant buildings before and they've been repurposed. Right now, you all are sitting in a repurposed building. And the old town hall is now being used for the school department. So there may be a process out there. I don't know. You know, maybe it's something for the temporary town manager to see if there was a process with the prior town manager, the one before the prior one, to see how it was handled with buildings that needed to be repurposed. Is there something already out there for us to look at? You know, why create the wheel when it's already been created, right? And then I agree with Mr. Bendel that we have a new town manager in the works in a couple of months. And does it make sense to start establishing new committees with a town manager coming up within a few months? So, but that's my feeling.
He or she could be that 11th person, odd-numbered person, you know, that might make sense.
Mr. Chair, there is Tewksbury is currently has a reuse committee, so that might be a source of what are they doing? Because I think what they're looking at is the Trahan School, and I think there's in the Livingston Street Park. So they're looking at 2 different avenues, and I think they have a public committee, you know, similar to what we're talking about. So that might be, if Mr. Semaglia is looking into that, that might be an avenue to look in, just to see what a neighboring community is doing.
And the other thing, Mr. Chair, that I'd like to bring up is that we also have a permanent building committee. And, you know, should there be consideration for that permanent building committee to have a person on here as well? I mean, should they be the repurposing committee? We already have that established. So it's something to again, to consider. We already have a committee out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think we look no further than some of the subcommittees we have now. The current time, some of them are struggling to get quorums, some of the committees haven't met in a while. And I feel like if we're gonna charge them with something, we ought to be crystal clear, give them a timeline, and be respectful of their time and their efforts, and let them go to work and come back when we have everything, you know, that we're hoping for, you know, laid out for them. Otherwise, it could linger out there for a while, and people could become fatigued, and, you know, I'd hate for that to happen if somebody's so willing to step up.
And they may be subject to open meeting laws if you appoint them. And now they're gonna have to plan meetings, and as you know, there's meetings almost every night in this building.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring up 7, board to consider.
Oh, we got communications first.
Well,
Oh,
board
I'm
to
sorry,
consider,
sorry,
yeah.
apologies. Yep,
Not-
sorry.
Not act on it,
And not act on it at this time?
I'll offer a motion if you're, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we take no action on item number 7 this evening.
Second.
All those in favor,
Frank,
by roll call?
Frank West, yes?
Lilia Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Curry, yes?
Gary DePalma, yes.
And I suggest no action so that we're not pigeonholed to a specific date, Mr. Chair. You
Right.
can bring it
Yep.
back up at, it doesn't have to be a specific date.
Thank you. Okay,
Communications?
now we'll go, you wanna do,
Oh.
you wanna do your
Communications?
communications?
Okay, Mr. Chair, there's a memo from myself for the traffic signalization on Church Street at the Public Safety Building. And I just wanted to let everyone know that please be advised, the Reading Municipal Light Department has completed bringing power to the new signals located on Church Street at the Public Safety Building. The contractor has activated the signal to flashing mode. The signal will be on flashing mode for approximately 2 weeks to allow the public to acclimate to the presence of the light.
Great news.
Next, yes, I think that's good news, too. The next one is a memo from Valerie Gingrich, Planning and Conservation Director. The developer at Green Meadow Drive subdivision, Joe Langone, requested the planning board review the street acceptance acceptance plan for Green Meadow Drive and initiate the street acceptance process. At the January 2nd, 2024 meeting, the planning board reviewed the attached street acceptance plan and memo from the town engineer and voted 4-0 to recommend the select board initiate the street acceptance process at Green Meadow Drive and also recommend laying out the public way. Attached, you will find the developer's request, street acceptance plan, and the memo from the town engineer. A draft deed has been provided and will be reviewed by staff and town council, which I believe it has. And the planning board requested the select board schedule a meeting to initiate the street acceptance process and schedule a subsequent public hearing to lay out the way and endorse the street acceptance plan Mylar. And board to considers, you've gone through the first two. The next, board to consider 8, board to consider request of Elizabeth Lawrenson, town clerk, to appoint election workers for 2024. You may remember she was in last meeting and discussed a lot of these processes that now have to be voted on.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the request.
Second for discussion?
Go ahead.
The only discussion I have is that, and I did fill out a notice with the town clerk. One of the members on this list is my wife, Karen West. And I did check and find out that I can vote on it, but I did submit a conflict of interest request into the town clerk's office.
Thank you, Mr. West. Any other discussions? I'll ask for a vote.
Frank West, yes?
Lilia Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Curry, yes?
Gary DePalma, yes.
Board to consider number 9, is request of town clerk Elizabeth Lawrenson is authorize Joe Desmond, police chief, to assign detail officers to the 3 polling places during the 2024 elections. This is something's mandated by the state. The town clerk has to appoint somebody to appoint the details. So she figured the police chief would be a good guy for that.
Motion to accept?
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Frank West, yes?
Lilia Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Curry, yes?
Gary DePalma, yes.
Okay, number 10, moving right along. Board to consider request of the town clerk, Elizabeth Lawrenson, to consider schedule for early voting for presidential primary election.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor, by roll call?
Frank West, yes?
Lilia Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Curry, yes?
Gary DePalma, yes.
Okay, number 11, board to consider request of town clerk Elizabeth Lawrenson to allow in-person at-the-counter voting for April 27th, 2024 local election.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Frank West, yes.
Leah Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Curry, yes.
Gary DePalma, yes.
Next one is the board to consider request to change the name of flammable license from Coke Separation Solutions to Covalis Separation Solutions LLC for property located at 850 Main Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Frank West, yes.
Leah Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Curry, yes.
Gary DePalma, yes.
Okay. Moving on to Lucky 13, board to consider request of J. Christopher Neville to use Town Beach at Silver Lake and the Beach House for Rotary and the Rotary Interact members to participate in the Polar Plunge on Saturday, March 23rd, 2024 at 12 p.m. Snow, ice date Saturday, April 6th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Frank West, yes.
Leah Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Curry, yes.
Gary DePalma, yes.
Number 14 is board to consider request of John Romano on behalf of the Wilmington Sons and Daughters of Italy to use the municipal parking lot at the 4th of July building on Saturday, March 23rd, 2024, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Sunday, March 24th, 2024, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. for a drive-through diaper drive. Just to let you know, I did talk to Dennis at Public Buildings, and that parking lot will be available. Probably going to be one of the last events at that parking lot.
Have a
make a
motion
motion.
to accept?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Frank West, yes.
Leah Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Curry, yes.
Gary DePalma, yes.
And number 15, board to consider request of Michael P. Ferrara, Performing Arts Department, Wilmington Public Schools, to use Town Common and gazebo on Thursday, May 16th, 2024, for the rain date of May 23rd, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., for the purpose of the High School Honors Jazz Band and Concert Band, and on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024, rain date of June 4th, from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. for the purpose of elementary string orchestra concert.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Frank West, yes.
Leah Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Curry, yes.
Gary DePalma, yes.
And that's it,
Moved.
Mr. Chair, for board to consider.
Do I have any public comments? Announcements? New business. Important dates.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chair, January 29th, Select Board, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m., Town Manager's FY25 Budget Presentation. January 30th, the next day, Finance Committee, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m., FY25 Budget Overview, Revenue and General Government. January 31st, Town Hall, School Administration Building Committee, virtual, 5 p.m. February 1st, Finance Committee, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m., Recreation, Library, and Historical Commission. February 2nd, the last day to submit petition warrant articles for inclusion on the warrant for the annual town meeting on May 4th, 2024. February 6th, Finance Committee, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m. for the Department of Public Works and Public Buildings Department. February 8th, Finance Committee, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m., Veteran Services, Elderly Services, IT, and Town Clerk. February 12th, Select Board, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m. February 13th, Finance Committee, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m., Planning and Conservation, Building Inspector, Board of Appeals, and Board of Health. February 19th, President's Day, Town offices closed. February 26th, Select Board, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m. February 27th, Finance Committee, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m., Police Department, Public Safety Central Dispatch, and the Fire Department. February 29th, Finance Committee, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 p.m., Wilmington Public Schools. March 5th, Presidential Primary, polls open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. March 7th, Finance Committee, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 PM, Shawshene Tech School District. March 12th, Select Board, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 PM. March 19th, Finance Committee, Planning Board, Public Hearing, Town Hall Auditorium, 7 PM. March 27th, Select Board, Town Hall, Room 9, 7 PM. And April 17th is the last day to register to vote in the annual town election, annual town meeting, town clerk's office open until 5 PM.
Mr. Chair,
Maselli?
sorry, March 12th is a Tuesday and March 27th is a Wednesday. Are those typos or
Huh.
just for the select board meetings?
Ev?
Unless I looked at the calendar wrong, but
Yes.
Yeah, March
So it's-
12th is a Tuesday.
11th and 25th.
thank you.
11 and 25?
11.
Okay. Would you like me to read them again, Mr. Chair?
No, that's okay.
Thank you.
Right from last year.
That's all right.
It was a test, you
I-
passed.
Well, okay, just, I do read things sometimes.
Now turn the mic over to Greg Bendel for salute to service.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, it's my pleasure to present tonight's salute to service to Lawman Johnson, a sergeant in the United States Air Force who joined the Air Force on January 3rd, 1966 here in Boston, and was discharged May 23rd, 1969 at the Stewart Air Force Base in New York. Served as an aircraft maintenance specialist, and some of the awards that he earned were National Defense Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, and Air Force Good Conduct Medal. And Lawman served, after his service in the military, the city of Everett as a police patrolman and detective for 34 years. He and his wife of 54 years, Constance, lived here in Wilmington for 40 years and have one son, Lawman Johnson III, who once appeared on America's Test Kitchen show. Important to note. So tonight, we thank him for his service, and we salute him. Thank you.
Thank you.
And he's a very nice guy. No doubt.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Frank West, yes?
Lillian Maselli, yes.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Kevin Perry is.
Gary DePalma, yes. Good night, have a good evening.